And today I'm so happy that I have the presence of someone who is sensitive as well as a thinker. And in this program, which we refer to as Insight Tonight, the insight comes with thinking, and that theme which we have today is relevant for you, me, all of us, because we deal with ourselves, we deal with people, and we also see some people make good money through negotiation, or they go higher up on their career graph, climbing the ladder by negotiating. And of course, we have the need to negotiate on political level also. Before I bring in Commissioner Emeritus Upendra Chivukula ji, let me also recollect Mahatma Gandhi ji, Rashtrapita Bapu, as is addressed. We remember the way he made his point emphatically, and many times he got things his way. And I would say the Bhook Hartal or hunger strike as a tool was also a very strong collective tool which comes in the category of negotiating. Let me have the pleasure of welcoming Upendra ji. Namaste.
Namaste.
I was talking to you before we started recording, and when we say art, let us qualify negotiation as an art. What would you say?
Right, that if we all in life, different walks of life, we do a lot of negotiation, but how often you get the winning negotiation? So sometimes people look for very stubborn. I only give you this much money when you go and negotiate price on the street and things like that. But making it a win-win, so both people leave with the smiles that they had achieved something. I think that could be, to do that, it requires a special skill, and that's why the art of negotiation in that is not perfected. You every time you do, you get better at it, and then you will achieve what you want. Whether you are negotiating a salary or you're negotiating with your wife about whether do you want to do some work at home or not. All these things are negotiation. But how skillful you are, I think that's where the art of negotiation comes into picture.
I think what Upendra ji has said is something that we should repeat and underline, and it's very, very important, and we'll use that as a way to move upwards. That is the reference that both walk out after negotiation as winners. How does that happen? Because many times it is a tug of war that I want this and the other guy say I want this.
So one of the key things I found in negotiation is preparation. A lot of the times people go to the negotiating table without adequate preparation. So you need to do research about the who you are negotiating with, what their needs are, what their expectations are, as well as you examine who are you negotiating for, what the requirements are, and see how make it such that you meet somewhere middle ground. I think that is where the challenge. Without preparation, you will have a bad negotiation. And also time. A lot of the times you need time for preparation. There was a Japanese have done a tremendous negotiation with the Americans. When they go abroad, they have, let's say you have a 7-day trip. The first 5 or 6 days, they'll wine you and dine you and everything. Then you are in a hurry to come back. That is the time they'll sit at the negotiation table, and then they'll get the best deal for themselves. So I think this is where you have to be very careful, even if it is the last minute. But if you have adequately prepared, then you will know how far can you push. It's like elastic band. Negotiation is like elastic band. How long can you stretch it? And you want to stretch it just enough without breaking it. I think that's where the skill comes into picture.
So I think again this is a very aphoristic way of looking at the flow of art of negotiation, and preparation means you should be clear what you want. Many times people are not clear. They think they know, but they don't know. And I say it not just for you but for me also, and we just have a vague idea about what I want. So even if it is in your favor, you would walk away with a sense of maybe there could have been something better than this, etc. So talk to me about how to work on improving the degree of preparedness.
Like for example, you go for a job interview, right? You need to understand what level of the job you're applying for, and what is the industry scale, how much are they willing to go, the high and the low, and then what skills you are offering, and where does that fit in, whether it's a high or low, right in the middle. If you know those things, then you will not undersell yourself, and also you don't oversell and lose the net outcome. Because if you ask for too much, suppose you are only good for 100,000, and if you ask for 125, the employer, potential employer may say, hey, I can't afford you. Whereas if you knew that, or if you say I want only 75, but you are worth, employer is willing to pay you 100,000, so you are going to be a loser. So that is where preparation, knowing the industry, sizing up your own skill set. You have to look at your strength and weaknesses and all that. You have to come up with an ensemble of those things, and then use that at the negotiate table. Suppose you say, okay, they offer you 100,000, you want to get 110,000. So you have to do some selling. You have to say, okay, because these are the types of things I bring, in addition to what the job is, I'm bringing all these skills, they are worth more than 100,000.
Okay, let me bring in another dimension, and it is not 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. There are many situations where you have monetary concerns, there are certain situations where you have emotional concerns. And again, each individual vary in terms of their equation of priority. What is it that individually will make you feel good would vary from individual to individual. So it is important that when we are talking about individual to individual negotiation in terms of relationships, and there are certain situations where you want, and it might not be a very good example, but let's say you and your wife are looking to buy something, some asset, could be home or car or whatever. So it is not exactly negotiation, but you are trying to bring other person to your fold, that this is what I feel, etc.
Right.
How do you see these sort of personal situations in terms of the art of negotiation?
Yeah, convincing somebody else, that is also a form of negotiation. Whether you want to go to a particular movie and you really want to go to this movie, while the other person says, no, I want to go to a different movie. How do you balance that? How do you get to what you want? That is important. It's like going to a restaurant, going to a movie. All these things are, you need to understand the other person's psychology, understand the other person. But at the same time, other person also should feel that they won also. So if you win and they won't enjoy, if you go to the movie, another person is not happy, that will also make you uncomfortable. So I think that's where it's very important. Business relationships, same thing, because when you are making a negotiation, a partnership or some kind of acquisition and all that, if you don't have the right thing, if only one side is winning, that's called hostile. It could be a hostile acquisition, and there are other reasons for hostility. But I think that is where you have to use your judgment. And
okay, let me bring another dimension. And of course, we are talking about negotiations where there is an element of give and take involved. But we hear some people who are very smart, and then you start having certain impression that this guy is scheming. So in personal relationships, if you are too calculated in your approach, it may put people at a different sort of way of perception for you. So not losing your innate, natural, sensitive human touch, and yet having that skill, how that comes out?
Yeah, that is the key. A lot of times people, you go negotiate, and because the other person has to sell or do something, they agree to it. But if they're not happy, next time you go there, they don't want to do business with you. I think that is very important. For that, again, preparation is the key. Not knowing what is the upper limit, what is the lower limit, and if you can judge it and see how far you can stretch it, I think that is makes a big difference. And same thing in international negotiations or a hostage deal. Like somebody, for example, recently American prisoners were in Iran were released for in exchange of $5 billion. And there's a lot of negotiation there, but that's much higher level where the people lives are at stake. And so you want to be very careful because you don't want to, especially in hostage negotiation, you don't want to lose the people. You want to protect the lives. And so there is a lot of movies are made about a negotiator and things like that.
Yeah.
Because
Let us go to history a little bit, and when we look back, it's easy for us to analyze and say, oh, he should have done this way, that should have been like this, etc. And I go to a very sort of painful historical chapter when we look at India getting independence with separation.
right.
Now, whatever we know, a little bit, not getting into too much details, would you say that the way things were negotiated, there could have been different angle or a different way of negotiating and not, I'm just hypothetically thinking, yeah.
No, I think definitely, if the India was not divided, if you'd have gotten a united India with Pakistan and Bangladesh, now, so I think that would have been ideal. For that, goes back, and when you look at it, if Nehru only, if Jinnah became the prime minister and Nehru waited for his turn, instead, he wanted it right then and there. So then Jinnah wanted to be prime minister, so they had to create a separate country. So that those type of things are very important. We are celebrating Mahatma Gandhi's birth anniversary, and he was the one who yielded to Jawaharlal Nehru, because he had a soft corner for Jawaharlal Nehru. If he would have put his foot down and say, hey, look, why don't you wait? Let him be the prime minister, and it would have been different.
Yeah. So
it's a Monday morning quarterbacking, but things would have been different. The same thing, Vallabhbhai Patel could have been the prime minister. So India would have been totally different country. So I think, but we cannot go back but we can learn from the history and some of the errors and some of the mistakes that were made, and how do we go from there. Even recently, as recent Russia and Ukraine, everybody underestimated that Russia will just stop, but looks like Russia is in the long run. They're going to keep fighting, and even though they don't have many soldiers and all that.
So keeping this issue as well as what we referred from history, and looking at the individual's ego that comes into play, so many times in the name of speaking for collective good, one is operating perhaps from his or her ego driven concerns more, though they won't say it. And when we are talking, we are sort of analyzing in a detached manner, so we can say.
Ego plays a very important. You go back. When you have ego is ahankar in Hindi, and you have a karta and you have a bhokta. The karta is the one, the doer, and the bhokta is the one who is enjoying the effect. So I think a lot of the times, if the negotiator negotiates without any ego, then it would be perfect. But it's not practical, because everybody has particular angle they want to get. They want to beat the other guy, they want to get more, and so that is always the case. And that's why a lot of these negotiations tend to be one-sided a lot of the times. And
so if there is no ego, then the consciousness of this is my interest would also be diminishing, especially when we are talking now in the corporate. We are jumping, we'll probably come back to the political side, but if there is any business deal, you're representing your company, and you have certain parameters which when you come back, your team will say, oh, you did good, excellent, excellent. So, so then you have to keep that in mind, that ego will walk with you while you are negotiating, or how to find the balance, that is probably the art.
Yeah, that is a skill, and a lot of the times, because your company, if they sent you for negotiation, they would want the most and the best for the company. And if you look at the other company and then somehow balance it, and you may instead of getting 5 kudos, you'll get 2 kudos. So it's okay, but as long as it's also, I have to look at the time element also. It's not a quick hit. It's not a game where you hit the ball and you score a run, but it has to continue for some time, because it's a relationship. So relationships play a very important role in negotiation, and you want to have good relationships. And if you go back a lot of historical examples, when a country colonized another country, and they treat them brutally and all that, but they also know that someday we have to go back and do business. For example, Britain, England colonized United States, but they know they had to do trade with them, and so there is some give and take that took place during the war.
So talking about war and peace, and then bringing peace back with reference to Mahatma Gandhi, in the name of peace, if you are not clear and you do not have courage, then many times you would settle for things which in your heart you know that that's not what you want. So to be a good negotiator, perhaps you need to figure out what are your strengths beforehand.
That's right.
So that clarity and then communicating with conviction is important. And who would you say is the ideal person that comes to your mind from political leadership or business leadership, where you feel that person carried conviction and was excellent as far as the art of negotiation is concerned?
Yeah, I think there are Lyndon Johnson, President Lyndon Johnson. He knew how to negotiate. A lot of the recent presidents they have such a difficult time with U.S. Congress and the Senate and the House of Representatives. But Lyndon Johnson knew exactly how to negotiate, and he pretty much got what he wanted because he knew how to please the congressmen, individual members.
So now, I think humor also plays an important role. Like if you take things too seriously and somehow the environment is tense, then everybody is sort of edgy a little bit. So if you are a little bit humorous, when I say humorous, it doesn't mean having a shallow sort of thing, but being with good humor in certain moments requires an element of detachment. So you were earlier talking about Bhagavat Gita. I think Bhagavat Gita is relevant everywhere.
Oh yeah, Bhagavat Gita is a book. It's not for only the Hindus. It is a book. It's a practical guide, and so you can learn so much. How do you basically? What is the scene of a Bhagavat Gita? Right? It's a battle scene, and you have Krishna is teaching his pupil, who is Arjuna, and every day we are in a battle scene. We have problems. We are trying to encounter problems. How do we solve this? How do you solve this health crisis? How do you solve this problem? So I think we are in a battle crisis every day, and that's where the Gita comes into picture and telling you that, hey, look, you put your full effort. Don't worry about the results. Results or Krishna, dedicated to Krishna. But that's where Gita is very, very practical. And we can think as a Hindu or it doesn't have to be a Hindu or a Sanatana Dharma. Everybody should read Bhagavad Gita and know all the things that how Krishna tells how to solve the problems, how to go after them. And I think it's very much, there are a lot of business courses taught using the Bhagavad Gita, and then how the business principles that come out of Bhagavad Gita.
Now, what principle you feel helped you? You have been through a lot of interesting, if I say ups and downs, or at least challenging situations in your life. And let us look at the political phase of a politician who is contesting any election, and you have been there 6, 7 times, I believe.
Yes, 7 times.
7 times. So it's not easy. I mean, you are in a vulnerable position. If somebody says something, and if you have a fragile ego, then that might also be the end of your political career. Sometimes, if you say something and then press takes it, etc. So, how you manage to have the kind of balance which would help you succeed?
No, I think a couple of things, right? In politics itself, they say you have to have thick skin. You don't take anything personal. A lot of times people take personal, and that becomes really, you lose sight of the end in mind. And the other thing I learned is that you can accomplish anything in your life if you are willing to give credit to others. So a lot of times people say, I did it. Instead, if you say, we did it, or you helped me, help me get this thing through. For example, I have a legislation. I have to negotiate through the leadership in the lower house, assembly, and upper house in the Senate. So you need to have the sponsors, and you have to negotiate how to get the bill posted, how it gets released out of the committee, how it gets voted, then how it gets signed by the governor. So all negotiating process, but it's not visible to you, all the work that goes on. And I can give you specific examples, but I think that's a very important thing in politics. Getting elected, getting the seat, they call in India, they call it a ticket. So getting the ticket here is, so you need to negotiate with your committee people, your the county chair, all those, getting the line, all those things are negotiation. And sometimes you don't get it, and so you have to willing to trade off. You look for the trade-offs and see what is the next thing that you can do. And a lot of people do that. And one thing I have done in that, I never took it, I don't want to say never, but I try not to take it personal. Because suppose somebody did not post my bill, I don't take it personal, but I find out why they did not post and how do I work around that shortcoming. I think that's what I look for. It's basically a problem solving. You need to understand, have a strategy. How do you solve the problem and provide necessary support required, so that way you can advance anything that you want. And credit is one thing I notice. A lot of times people spend time, I did it. From local council member all the way to the president, I did it, and all the stuff. But it's not one person, it's a lot more people behind the scene, and you have to, the more you spread the credit, and the easier you can get things done.
So when you're saying about sharing the credit, and I'm reminded of India's Prime Minister, and he always talks about 140 crore people, their strength is operating, and continuing with our focus with special reference to the new India in terms of being more assertive about the way it should be recognized, or not shying from communicating its strength with calmness. And especially as we talked about United Nations probably, and Indian Foreign Minister's address in the United Nations, where he uses simple words, simple sentences, and his calm demeanor, but it hits in a way where it should. For example, I'll sort of refer to his speech in the United Nations. One, he opened by saying Namaste from Bharat. Now, that is like a statement to refer Bharat at this forum in the international eyes. That is one. But more important for now, in the context of negotiations, so there is tension between India and Canada. We will not get into all the details, but most of you are aware that how Canadian Prime Minister blamed Indian government for the killing of someone who Indian government has already referred to as a terrorist. Uh, so that part with reference of some credible intelligence, not even evidence or anything, and they didn't come up with anything. So what Jaishankar ji in United Nations said, Upendra ji, he says, political convenience should not determine response to terrorism, extremism, and violence. He also said rule makers should not subjugate rule takers. Now, these are very aphoristic, powerful.
Right, very powerful, yeah, because if you look at the Canadian situation, right, the Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister, he's being constantly attacked by the conservative wing, and he's looking for ways to do that. And I think he made a big mistake in accusing a sovereign nation of interfering in the affairs of another sovereign nation in public, in front of Parliament. I think it was a mistake. I think, but he was politically, probably there's a lot of pressure that he has to do that. And time will tell whether he did the right thing or the wrong thing. But I think the point the Jaishankar ji is making is that if you are a democratic nation and if you have terrorist elements present in your nation and you cannot encourage
or operating from other nation.
Yeah. So that's why he has to. That's what he very very cleverly crafted words there. Lot of meaning. If you understand the political situation there. But I think our Prime Minister Modi is a fantastic communicator. I think to negotiate you have to be able to articulate. Articulation is part of communication, and smile and namaste. For example, Bharat issue you brought up. If you look at the Constitution of India, it talks about India that is Bharat. So it is referred to that, and India, the name given by the Britishers, and so I think there is people talk
element
about
of national pride or whatever.
I think the key here is that the way he communicates. First time he came after he got elected as Prime Minister, he said, we moved from cows to mouse. It was very interesting reference to information technology.
Actually, he articulates it very well. I'm just reminded, he said, people used to talk about red tapeism. Now we have red carpet to welcome.
I think his visa, he had tough time getting his visitor visa and all that. But I think he's a master communicator, and he is trying to do the best for the nation. I think.
Okay, here's one more element. Probably we may run out of time, and that is knowing your strengths and weakness. Both is important while you are at the table across for negotiation.
So like a vulnerability, suppose I'm negotiating, I know I'm vulnerable here. If I don't know my vulnerability, the opponent may know that. So that way they can try to exploit it. So you need to figure out how to balance that. I think it's a balancing act. Yeah, you don't want to.
And sometimes you should be prepared to have clarity about certain points where you are not willing to compromise. Let us say, if we bring it to quantifiable numbers of some price structure, then you say below, let's say, $80, it will be a loss and I will not have the deal. So something like that.
Now you need to have in different scenarios, alternative 1, 2, 3, you will have, this way you don't have to think in real time, but you already have thought through that. Okay, this scenario if doesn't work, this is the next scenario. Like that you can pre-plan, and that will really help your negotiation.
Okay, so last question, it relates to someone who feels that he's not good at the art of negotiating, and they feel that wherever I go, I mean, people sort of take advantage of me. It could be in personal equation, it could be business, it could be political. So what would be your advice as a coach to empower someone for this?
I think the key here is that one thing being nice, but if you're being taken advantage of, that is not acceptable. So you want to make sure you have to set some boundary limits, so that way you don't want to go beyond something, allowing somebody to exploit you or take advantage of you. So that's where your planning and your thinking comes into picture. And that's why they say, nice guys finish last. So you don't want to be such a nice guy that you finish last. That's where you need to. I think this all negotiation and all that. After a while, it comes naturally. But if you are starting out, you better practice, plan, practice, and do that. And practice with your friends and see what is the thing that how your deficiencies are.
Upendra, I'm so happy that you could spare time and join us for this important conversation. And what I would say in my concluding sum of the whole thing is, one, he said, you don't have to be nice all the time, but you have to be nice, yet not at the cost of losing yourself. Two, you should know clarity is the key. If you know what you want, then only negotiation has any meaning. Otherwise, I mean, everything is good, then everything is good. So there is certain boundaries, as you mentioned, that needs to be considered. And I think we should not take things too seriously also, because in that case, the humor part goes away, and then
the sense of humor helps. In a negotiation, sense of humor, not sarcasm per se, but sense of humor. Really, if you are able to take it lightly, you can put the other person at ease. And when the other person is at ease, if she's tense, you'll say no. But if you are, keep that type of nice communication, then you can accomplish anything you want.
Wonderful, wonderful. On that note, which empowers us with self-confidence, you can accomplish anything you want with clarity and have a sense of independence, independent thinking, and of course acting would help. So thank you very much once again. Lots of good wishes to you, sir. I hope you enjoyed, as I did, this conversation, with lots of good wishes. This is Ashok Vyas. Namaste.